There is a moment every farmer over 60 knows by heart. You walk into the shed before sunrise, and the air still smells like last night's hay. And you turn a key on a tractor older than your grown children, and the engine catches on the first crank like it has been waiting for you. There are no warning lights, and no dashboard, and no software update, just the same rolling diesel growl you have heard since you were 10 years old, standing on your father's running board. That tractor has outlived 2 mortgages, 3 pickup trucks, and 1 marriage. And the new one sitting next to it, the one you financed for the price of a small house, will not even start unless a man in a button-down shirt at the dealership unlocks it through a laptop. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you are watching from. Because here is the thing nobody wants to admit out loud. The men who fix tractors for a living, the mechanics who have had their hands inside every brand, every model, every failed transmission, and every cracked block, do not buy new tractors when they go home. They go home to old iron. They go home to the same machines their fathers ran. And there is a reason for that, and it is not nostalgia, and it is not stubbornness, and it is not that they cannot afford a new one. It is something much sadder than that. They have seen what is inside the new ones, and they have seen what is inside the old ones, and they know which one will still be running when their grandson is the age they are now. So today I am going to tell you which 3 tractors those mechanics actually buy for their own land. Not what they sell, not what the dealer pushes, but what they take home and trust with their own livelihood when the sun goes down and there is nobody left to call. But first you have to understand something, because if you do not understand this, none of the rest will make sense, and you will keep getting talked into machines that are designed to fail before your knees do. When you walk into any new tractor cab built after 2014, you are not climbing onto a tractor anymore. You are climbing into a computer with wheels. There are sensors that talk to a black box, and there is a thing called diesel exhaust fluid, called DEF, that you have to pour into a separate tank because the government decided your tractor exhaust was killing the planet. If that fluid runs low, the tractor goes into what they call limp mode, and then it shuts off. If one speck of dirt gets in the line, the tractor goes into limp mode, and then it shuts off. If the temperature drops below 14 degrees and the fluid starts to freeze, the tractor goes into limp mode, and then it shuts off. Up in the Dakotas, farmers are walking out to their machines on January mornings and finding them dead, frozen, locked out by their own emission system, and the only man who can unlock it is the dealer, and the dealer is 40 miles away, and it is a Sunday, and there are cows that have not been fed. That is what the new tractors do, and that is what you are paying $150,000 for. Now think about your grandfather, and think about the tractor in his shed. The paint was faded, and the seat was patched with duct tape, and the fenders had dents from 40 years of brush against gates, and every single morning of his life, that tractor started, whether it was snow or heat or after sitting all winter in an unheated barn. It started because there was nothing on it that could refuse to start. There was no sensor that could say no, and there was no computer that could lock you out. There was a key and a starter and a battery and a tank of diesel and a man who knew how to work it, and that was the whole machine and the whole agreement. You took care of it, and it took care of you, and nobody at any dealership in any town, in any state, had any say in any of it. That world is what these 3 tractors are, and that is what the mechanics are buying. They are not buying tractors at all. They are buying back something we lost. The first one is the tractor that every John Deere mechanic in the country can draw the transmission for on the back of a napkin, and that tractor is the John Deere 4020. There is a man in Kansas. His name is Jim, and he has been a farm machinery mechanic for 40 years. There is a photograph of him standing in front of one of these old tractors with the transmission split open and laid out on the shop floor like a heart on an operating table. He has trained 2 generations of mechanics under him, and when somebody asks him what he keeps at home, he does not even think before he answers. He just says it, the 4020. There were 184,000 of them built between 1963 and 1972, almost 200,000 machines. And the heartbreaking and beautiful part, is that most of them are still working right now, today, in this very moment. Somewhere in Iowa or Tennessee or Pennsylvania, an old man in faded overalls is climbing up onto a 4020 and going to bale hay, and that tractor was built before he had gray hair, and it will still be running long after he is gone. There are men who have 10,000 hours on these tractors without ever opening up the engine. 10,000 hours, which is a number that does not exist in the modern world. Your new tractor will be ready for the scrap heap at 6,000 hours, and it will cost you more in repair bills along the way than the original purchase price. The 4020 just keeps going. The 6-cylinder diesel keeps pulling, the hydraulics keep responding, and the power shift transmission keeps grabbing gears as smooth as a man pouring coffee. Every part you could ever need is still sold at the dealership on a 40-year-old tractor with new heads on the shelf and new gaskets and new seals, because they made enough of them that the parts will never disappear. There is a band named after this tractor, and there are books written about it, and there are men who can tell you the exact year by looking at the muffler. When you buy one today, restored, you pay $15,000, maybe $25,000 for a beauty, which is less than a fifth of what a new tractor of half the capability costs. And that tractor will still be running when the new one in the dealer's lot has been melted down into a Korean car. There is no mechanic alive who does not respect the 4020, not a single one. Go down to your local farm equipment shop and find the oldest man in there, the one with the gray hair and the permanent grease under his fingernails, and ask him what he would buy if he had to start over with one tractor, and watch his eyes when he answers. He is going to say 4020, and he is going to mean it. There is a quiet thing that happens with these tractors that nobody talks about. Men get attached to them in a way they do not get attached to cars or trucks. A man will sell a pickup he has owned for 20 years and not look back, but he will not sell a 4020. He will pass it down. He will fight with his brothers in the will over who gets it. Wives have stood in farmyards and watched their husbands stroke the fender of one of these tractors the way a man strokes the head of an old dog. Something about the green and yellow paint baked into the steel, and something about the smell of the cab, and something about the way it sounds at idle. That tractor is the last thing on the farm that has not changed since they were boys, and they are going to hold on to it for as long as the Lord lets them have it. The second one belongs to the whole world. There is a small gray tractor that you can find on every continent on Earth except Antarctica. There are dairy farmers in Wisconsin running it, and rice farmers in Sri Lanka running it, and vineyard workers in France running it. There are old men in Australia, and young women in Nigeria, and Polish families on small holdings, and Caribbean farmers, and Texas ranchers, and they are all running the same tractor, the Massey Ferguson 135. They called it the cockroach, because it would not die. 400,000 of these were built. 400,000, which is more than the population of most cities you have ever visited. And the heart of every single one is a 3-cylinder Perkins diesel engine that mechanics say is the best small diesel ever built by any manufacturer in any country. It will run for 10,000 hours before it asks for anything. 10,000 hours of plowing and baling and scraping manure and pulling stumps and feeding cows in the snow and dragging trailers to the auction barn and being parked outside in the rain for entire winters and starting again every spring like it never noticed. The fuel consumption is so low that men brag about it the way fishermen brag about catches, and the simplicity is so beautiful that a 13-year-old boy can change the oil and the filters in an afternoon and feel like a man. I read a story once about a farmer in Tennessee whose father bought a Massey 135 brand new in 1972. The father is gone now, and the farmer is in his 70s, but that tractor is still parked in the same shed his father parked it in, with the same paint, faded gray, and the cream Massey Ferguson script worn off the side. He uses it every week, and he says when he climbs up onto that seat and hears the Perkins fire, he can still smell his father's pipe tobacco coming off the cab. He says he is going to leave that tractor to his son, and his son is going to leave it to his grandson, and when his grandson is an old man, that tractor will still start, because that is what it does, and that is the only thing it knows how to do. The dealer in his county buys every Massey 135 he can find, and he repaints them and services them and sells them for $4,500 with a loader, which is less than a tenth of the price of a new compact tractor. And it will do everything the new one does, and it will still be doing it in 2070, while the new one is in a landfill by 2032. That is the second one. The third one is the big one, the one that men who own 3,000 acres in Nebraska still climb into every morning with tears in their eyes, because their daddy taught them how to drive on it. The John Deere 4440. Built between 1978 and 1982 with only 4 years of production, and in those 4 years they built the tractor that taught an entire generation of farm boys what work felt like. 130 horsepower at the PTO, a turbocharged 6-cylinder diesel, and a power shift transmission with 15 speeds that you could pour through like water. And the cab, the cab. They called it the Sound Guard, and it was the first tractor cab in American history that you could sit in for 14 hours straight and not come out half-deaf and hunched over from the noise. There was heat in the winter, and air conditioning in the summer, and a radio that played country music from stations that have since gone off the air. Men sat in those cabs and listened to Merle Haggard and George Jones and watched their fields go by, and they thought to themselves that this was as good as life got. There is a farmer in Minnesota who has a 4440 with 16,000 hours on it, 16,000 with the engine never opened and the hydraulics still original and the steering still original and the transmission still original. The seat is torn and the paint is fading, and there is a crack in the cab glass that has been there since 1996. And he says that when his time comes, he is going to leave that tractor to his oldest son, and his son is going to keep working it because there is nothing else on this earth that can replace what that machine means to that family. A new tractor of the same horsepower today costs more than $150,000, while a used 4440 in good shape costs $30,000, maybe $40,000 if it is mint. And here is the part that will break your heart. A 1982 4440 today is worth more than it was when it rolled off the factory floor. The same machine, after 44 years of farming, has gone up in value because there are men who have given up on the new ones. There are men who have been burned 3 times by computer failures and dealer lockouts and DEF freezes and limp modes and warranties that ran out 1 week before the transmission did. And those men are paying cash, real cash, hard-earned cash, for the privilege of going backwards in time to a machine that was built when men were still trusted to take care of their own equipment. You want to know why? Then look at what happened in a federal courtroom this past January. John Deere lost $4.2 billion in a right to repair lawsuit. The court ruled that they had been locking farmers out of their own tractors, the farmer's own tractors, machines that the farmer had bought and paid for, machines that the farmer owned. And John Deere had been sending signals from satellites that would disable the tractor unless a dealer came out with a laptop. There were farmers in Iowa whose harvest sat in the field because a sensor faulted on a Sunday and the dealer was closed, and the corn rotted while they waited. There were farmers who watched their livelihood slip away in real time because of a piece of software written by a man who had never seen a soybean grow. That is the world we live in now, and that is what they have done to our equipment, and that is what they have done to our way of life. And the mechanics see it. They see all of it. They see the new tractors come into the shop with check engine lights for problems that do not exist. They see the bills. The farmers pay for repairs that should have been $10 fixes. They see proud old men in worn flannel shirts looking at quotes from the dealer and quietly putting the paper in their back pocket and saying they will think about it. And then those mechanics go home and they climb up onto a 1972 4020, or a 1975 Massey 135, or a 1980 John Deere 4440, and they turn the key and the engine catches, and they go bale hay, or feed cattle, or move dirt, or they just drive across the field because the sun is going down and the air is cool, and a man deserves a few quiet minutes at the end of a long day. I want to mention one more tractor, because if I do not, the men who know are going to write it in the comments anyway. The International 1066, a beautiful machine, strong as a bull, with a 414 cubic inch turbo diesel that will pull a barn off its foundation. There are men who love that tractor like a member of the family, and I respect them for it. The reason it did not make my top 3 is one part of the transmission called the torque amplifier, which wears out, and when it does, you have to split the tractor in half and spend $5,000 to fix it. The other 3 on this list do not have that one weakness. But if you have a 1066 and it has been taken care of and the TA is strong, then you keep that tractor and you bless your luck, because they do not make engines like the IH414 anymore, and they never will again. So that is what they are buying: the mechanics and the dealers who know what is in the boxes, and the professional farmers who have seen 40 harvests and want to see 40 more. They are not buying showroom tractors. They are buying their childhoods back. They are buying the smell of their father's diesel and the sound of their grandfather's voice telling them to keep the front wheels straight when they were 10 years old and could barely see over the dash. They are buying back a country that used to make things to last. And maybe that is what this is really about. Maybe it was never about the tractor at all. Maybe the tractor was just the last honest thing we had, a handshake from another century, a promise that if you take care of something, it will take care of you, and that a man and a machine could grow old together, and neither one would let the other down before the end. I think about my own father sometimes when I write these things. He never had much, and he never wanted much, but he had a tractor. And every spring when the ground started to thaw and the days got a little longer, he would walk out to the shed and he would put his hand on the hood the way you put your hand on the shoulder of an old friend you have not seen all winter. He never said a word when he did it. He just stood there for a minute, and then he climbed up, and that engine fired, and the world started moving again. There is a feeling that goes with that moment that no man under 40 in this country will ever know, and it has nothing to do with horsepower or hydraulics or fuel economy. It has to do with being able to count on a thing, a real thing, a thing that does not need to be talked to and does not need permission, a thing that does what it was built to do, year after year, in good times and in lean ones, asking nothing in return except a little oil and a little fuel and a man who knows what he is doing at the wheel. There is a 1972 John Deere 4020 sitting in a shed in Iowa right now. The man who bought it new is still alive, and he is 87 years old, and he still drives it every Sunday afternoon down to check the back 40. His grandson is going to inherit it, and his grandson's children are going to drive it after that. That tractor was built before the moon landing was even a sure thing, and it is going to outlive everything they make this year, and next year, and the year after that. Tell me what man at any dealership, in any state, in any year, can promise you the same thing about the tractor he is trying to sell you today. If this hit you somewhere, hit subscribe and tell me one thing. What was the tractor your father drove?